Hi guys, and welcome to the Sunderland vs Swansea match preview. So Sunderland do welcome Swansea to the Stadium of Light tomorrow, 3 o'clock kickoff. Now, the question on everyone's lips, and it's probably something I'm going to work into the title of the video as well, is should we be going full strength for this game and going forward, given that we've pretty much solidified our playoff position? Now, I think there needs to be a balance that needs to be struck, essentially, with this. Now, I understand the case of potentially, looking after players, keeping them on the bench, managing the minutes, so then they're going to be fresh for the playoffs. But on the same token, you want to get minutes into the legs so they remain sharp, they remain on the same wavelength and connected with the players and connected with the system and the way we play, which is something that Rodgers bangs on about and harps on about quite a lot, the connection. So then they're ready and they're fresh to go into the playoffs, and they're going to be ready to go, because there's only so often you can keep your players, like your Lafayette, for example. I understand he is on paper, and probably is, to be fair, our best player by quite a way, to be fair. He's a good couple of levels above a lot of our players. I understand trying to look after him because he's going to be crucial in the playoffs, absolutely. But if you keep him on the bench for the remainder of these games and just give him 20 minutes here and there just to keep him ticking, and then all of a sudden expect him to start from the first leg of the playoffs and expect him to blow everyone away, it doesn't really work like that, and I don't think that's the way we should be doing it. Of course, managing players and stuff like that, maybe bringing them off with half an hour to go or 25 minutes to go, that's fine, but they shouldn't do it the reverse way around, keeping him on the bench and then giving him 10 minutes here and there. I don't think that's the way it should be done. I think we should be starting to try and get ourselves some momentum and using the players that we probably would be using going into the playoffs. Now, I've just watched Regis Lebrie's pre-match presser, and he did say that Job is going to skip this weekend. I believe he said that. I may have misheard him, but I'm pretty sure he did say that. Certainly we have a fully fit Job going into the run-in. Now, we are taking on Swansea, who have had a brilliant few games, actually. They beat Plymouth 3-0. Before that, they beat Derby. And before that, they went away from home against Leeds and got a 2-2 draw there. So they're in a good run of form. Given for a team that aren't really playing for too much, they're not going to be too concerned about going down. They're not going to be challenging for the playoffs, are they, really? So for a team in that sort of area, they absolutely have the motivation, and fair play to him. This is what I keep on screaming, yet, our playoff position is somewhat guaranteed. That doesn't mean we should be sleepwalking into it. You want to keep on going. You want to gain momentum. And Swansea are doing that. And they've got really nothing to play for either. Do you know what I mean? They're starting to gain momentum. That's what we need to do. So for me, like I said, I think Job is going to take a rest. He's going to take a break from this one. There's no other updates for injuries. So I presume that we are as we are type thing. I would go with an 11. There's probably a couple of ways to do it. I'll put it up on screen for you anyway. This is my sort of preferred 11, not necessarily predicted, but this is an 11 I would like to see for this game. So we've got passing and goal, Trey Hume. Now I know I give a lot of players stick in the last review. Now I just like to say, because I do get the odd comment here and there, which I get it. Everyone's got their own opinion, and they sort of slate me for being so negative on a review of a game. But, I can simultaneously, at the same time, appreciate where we are in the league, what we've accomplished this season, which, by the way, has been fantastic. It's been a great season on the whole. But I can also say when something is negative and when a performance isn't to the standard we should be playing at. Do you know what I mean? Just because we've done well throughout the season doesn't mean I'm going to say that everything is fantastic when that individual game wasn't. It just doesn't make sense for me not to do that. I know there might be other YouTubers that do that. I don't. I will say when the performance is good, and I'll say when the performance is bad. I'm not going to let the season trajectory and the season as a whole influence my opinion on a match as an individual game. Do you know what I mean? So either way, yeah, I know it may have come across really negative, but it was a negative performance on the whole. But this is what I'm going to go with anyway. Sorry, I went off tangent there, and I kind of have to repeat that sentiment quite often. But across the back, I think Hjelde, he's probably going to go with Hjelde. Don't get me wrong, but I just think he's just not at the level we need him to be. And so defensively, I just want us to be sound. I know we've come off the back of 3 clean sheets in the bounce, which is fantastic, but sometimes we've really had to ride our luck. So I would be comfortable with Hume at left back and Brown at right back, 09 and Mepham in the middle. Mepham, by the way, has been an absolute giant at the back recently. In the middle, now, Dan Neil, I feel like if he does start going for, other youngsters around him in the middle, Dan Neil he's a fantastic player, but Dan Neil, I feel like when he's there, just stand alone, when he doesn't have a Lafay there or a Job there or someone else with more experience around him, sometimes the cracks really can show with him. And I think that's what happened with Norwich. He had all the responsibility in the middle, really, almost anyway, on his own. And he had a really, really poor game. You know, when he has some quality around him to sort of help him out a bit more, that's when you get the best of Daniel, and that's when you get the sort of Rolls Royce of a player he can potentially be. But that's why I want to see Lafay start in the middle. I think he's shown that he's ready now, even if he does just have an hour on Saturday and then comes off with half an hour to go, 25 minutes, fair enough. Rigg as well alongside him, Robertson one side, Mayenda on the left, because for me, Watson, he just didn't seem arsed. Neither did a lot of the players, to be fair, but he did not seem interested. So I'd have Mayenda on the left, even though I do prefer Mayenda on the right to the left, but I'd rather Mayenda there, and then Isidore up top. I wouldn't be surprised if he did go for Watson on the left and then Isidore up top or Mayenda up top, which I wouldn't be too bothered about. I guess, and maybe Watson with a better side around him, he might play better, because like I said, everyone played poor against Norwich, or the majority did. But again, he just didn't look particularly interested to me, so I'd like someone who's at least going to try, even if Mayenda isn't too comfortable on the left. And that is the sort of team I'd like to go with. However, I do think he is going to start Hjelde, which would change things. So I think Hjelde at left back, Hume at right back, and then I'll put Brown over Rigg in there, or even Brown as a holding midfielder, and then bring Dan Neil off to give him a bit of a rest, if that is what is being considered. Do you know what I mean? So there is a few ways I could go about it, but this is generally probably what I'd be most comfortable with. But let us know in the comments down below what team, what system you would go with. Now for my score predictions. It's a hard one, because like I said, both sides aren't necessarily playing for too much, but you know, back at the stage of life, we've got some difficult away games going. We're going to want to get momentum, so we need to go for it. He might end up playing Alexic again, which I think he was made a bit of a scapegoat. I wasn't a fan of his the other night by any stretch. If you go back and watch the review, I was distraught with a lot of people's performances, but Alexis looked awful. But I think his minutes have been managed awfully, like I said in that review, and he was put out of position anyway. So maybe he might put Alexis in a number 8 role, maybe to give him some game time, where I think he'd look a bit more comfortable, rather than just shoehorned out on the right and just had no real connection, and he's a bit of a headless chicken there, wasn't he? But I think if we go for the sort of team that I've gone with, I'm going to go with a 2-1 Sunderland win. I think we will concede. Swansea looking fantastic at the moment, particularly going forward on the break. But I think if we do play to the best of our abilities, if we do have Lafay in there, again with a sprinkling of quality around him, he will drive us forward, he will create chances, and he'll make chances of his own as well. And I think that would be a bit too much for Swansea. So I'm going to go with a 2-1 Sunderland win. If Lafay starts, I'm going to go for a Lafay goal. I'm going to go for an Isidore goal as well, because he hasn't scored in a while as well. So I'll go with a 2-1 Sunderland win, and those are my goal scorers. Let us know again in the comments what scoreline you would go with. But that's everything, guys. I am at work tomorrow for the game. There's a chance, only a slim one, there's a slim chance I will be able to watch it. And I'm actually finishing work at 6 o'clock tomorrow. I'm not doing my usual 24-hour shift, which would usually mean that I can't do a review till the next day. But I should be able to give you one in the evening. If I can watch the game, if I manage to somehow sneakily watch the game at work, I will do a review. If not, I might still do some kind of video, but it won't be a proper review. My sort of general rule is if I haven't watched the game, I won't do a review, because I feel like, how can I tell you what I think when I haven't watched it? I know some other YouTubers might do it, but I just don't see the sense in it. We'll see anyway. We'll see what happens. But yeah, do me a favour. Hit the like button for me. It's always so appreciated. Subscribe if you're new. There's still so many of you guys that are watching week in, week out, every video, and you're not yet subscribed. And it really does go a long way. It does help out. But either way, take care. Stay jammy. How are the lads? Come on.